If you have happy employees, you will have happier customers and better results overall. In this lesson, you're going to learn the essential ingredients that I think leaders need to know to ensure that they're elevating the employee experience on their team. Like throughout my career, I've always had this same mantra that if you take care of your employees and teams, they'll take care of your customers, allowing growth, profits, and most importantly, shared success to follow. Because you see, it's people that make the ultimate difference. It's vital to ensure that the employee experience is then prioritized. Now, some people are kind of wondering, like, what is the employee experience? Is it the same thing as employee engagement? And it's not. I define employee experience as the reality of what it's like to work for an organization. It's not the same, though, as employee engagement. Employee experience helps determine whether the measurement or the outcome, essentially employee engagement, is positive or negative, but they are not the same. Now, there's this link between employee experience and customer experience that we all know and recognize. Because happy employees means happy customers. If you have the right employee experience in place, it's going to create a culture that ultimately wows your customers. I've seen both positive and negative employee experiences. I've lived through some, I've worked through some, and I can tell you, when you have a negative employee experience, everyone does the bare minimum. People are frustrated, they're angry, they're bitter. They actually are going against most of what's trying to be pushed. It becomes this toxic and contagious culture. These employees aren't always this way, but they're this way because the environment and the organization has created it. So with that in mind, I want to go through the 5 key elements that I think are important for game-changing leaders to know so they can produce the results they want. They can be as authentic as possible if they embrace these 5 characteristics. Leadership is critical. I think it's the most important one. You're in this course for a reason because it's about becoming a game-changing leader. Whether you're a formal leader with a fancy title or an informal leader, you have a role to play in creating a game-changing culture. Leaders need to establish the vision with their team, to unify everyone together. We can't go alone. We can't just drive forward with our own ideas. We have to make sure we create an environment where people feel appreciated, part of the process. They're part of coming up with the vision. Priorities are critical for a leader, because leaders who struggle to prioritize their people, to prioritize their needs, are going to lose. That means you're going to lose on some amazing talent, especially in today's hyper-competitive market, because there is still that war for talent I talked about earlier. When things do go well, we have to celebrate. We have to reward people. That's essential. We got to make sure that we thank them. Again, use the 2 most powerful, most forgotten words. Thank you. Strategy is a huge component when it comes to the employee experience. Put it another way, strategy, in my opinion, means just having a plan. It's paramount to being successful. If you don't have a plan, well, you're going to struggle. You need to know, and your team needs to know, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do to maximize the strengths of your people, the talent that they have? How can you put people first, including maybe other leaders? I include leaders because I think they're often forgotten. Too many senior leaders and executives view leaders as the group that just needs to figure it out, instead of putting a plan in place, a strategy in place for their development. You know, it's important to fulfill your mission and your vision, but make sure that you have the great game plan to actually succeed. How will you get there? What's the mid, the short, the long-term plan? Many leaders, honestly, don't think beyond the day-to-day responsibilities. And that makes it really tough for people to feel confident that they have the leader in place who's driving the direction the right way, where it should be. We have to have the right tactics, the resources, the techniques to achieve any sort of goal that we're going after. Many organizations are also, I'd say, judging performance incorrectly. They rely on subjective feelings instead of having data, objective facts, KPIs to measure performance, or they're measuring the wrong KPIs. People is so critical when it comes to looking at the employee experience. I think it's one of the most important factors. If you want to elevate the employee experience, you have to prioritize people. Look, the competition can copy your products, they can copy your services, but they can't exactly copy your people. You have to remember that people are your greatest asset. Everyone's got unique gifts and talents that they bring to your company, and then you need to find a way to maximize them. But far too often, they're underutilized. I said this in the earlier lesson where I talked about waste. The most egregious form of waste is underutilized talent, where you're not using the talents, the strengths, the skills, the experiences of the people that you have. If you're not providing professional development, you're neglecting their strengths, you're maybe not even empowering them, it's not going to put you in a spot where you can actually produce game-changing results. So solicit their feedback, listen to them, help them grow and develop and become the best versions of themselves you can be. Provide them with ongoing coaching, provide them with one-on-ones so they can learn how to become more effective. Because whether people know it or not, you have to invest in people. You have to help them become the best versions of themselves they possibly can be. Process is also important though. If you think about it, every business serves customers in some way, and if you do not have good processes in place, you're making it harder for your team to be able to do the work that they need to do, but you're also making it harder for your customers to want to continue to do business for you. A lot of companies and people are really good at being consistent at being inconsistent, and that comes from a lack of poor, execution around processes. So where possible, make sure that you are trying to improve your processes, become more efficient, making the right call, the right decision, planning things out in advance, being more proactive than reactive. If you want to create a culture that is ultimately game-changing, though, it's about your people again and being more empowered. You want to empower them to come up with new ideas, to help drive change and innovation, to identify new tools. I think it's important that you give people the opportunity to help with projects, to help develop, whether it's new processes, new tools, new technology, analyze the competition, see what they're doing well. If you invest in your people, it's going to help you. Technology is probably the most often neglected part, I think, of the employee experience. We need to rely on technology a lot more than we actually are. While we have so much more technology now at our fingertips than ever before, a lot of companies that struggle with engagement and are having a good employee experience do so because they're not actually leveraging technology the right way. Employees don't want to work harder. They want to work more effectively and smarter and actually work a lot less. If we do not, as leaders, come up with the right way to provide them with technology that helps make their lives easier, they're going to be frustrated. I think it's so critical and important that we realize that we have to find ways to get investments in new technology to help our businesses and our teams become more effective. Sure, it might be tough because money's tight. Maybe your budget doesn't get approved. But I always say it's like getting candy from a vending machine. You have to hit it from multiple angles. You have to try and build the right business case to ultimately get what you want. Maybe you have to trial some stuff for short periods of time to prove the effectiveness of the new technology. But find ways that's going to make your team's life easier, to simplify what they do. I think that there is so much opportunity to leverage technology so much more, and that's going to help with the employee experience. So I hope that of the 5 areas that I've identified here, that you realize that there are some important aspects of the employee experience we need to think about. Leadership, strategy, people, process, and technology make a world of difference. If you can focus on prioritizing these elements, you can achieve tremendous results and elevate that team performance to become, again, more game-changing as a leader.